It's a chicken. All right, here we have our chicken with the broken leg. We got x-rays last week, and our callus is excellent. So today we're going to remove the pins, and right now we're just gassing down. So she's doing relax and nighty-night for a few minutes. Anyway, I will show the pins in a minute. I must get to work now. I need these hands to do the things to the chicken that the chicken needs to have done to eat. Okay, later. Okay, this is our chicken who had an external fixator, a stage 1 external on the left tibia. All right, anyway, so that's been removed. We're already woken up with anesthesia, and I thought I would walk you through my reasons for externals. There are a lot of ways to fix broken bones. There's splints. There's all kinds of splints, from modified extension splints to spoon splints to bilobe splints, or bivalve splints, where they actually have two sides. Then there's full splints. Then it goes to your internal things to fix them, which is your IM pin and your plating. And then you got your externals, and there's all kinds of different kind of externals. I'm a big fan of IMEX, simply because they've been around for a long time, and they really have geared a lot of their medicine toward exotics. As a matter of fact, this is a very, very giving idea how small these clamps are. Anyway, so the reason I like externals. Okay, before I was so rudely interrupted.
Chicken talk.
They thought I was talking to the chickens, so they came to give me hell. Alright. Anyway, the way this works is, let's just say that the fracture, here's your bone going across here, the fracture's right about there. What we basically would do was put this pin in, that pin in, put 2 pins above the fracture, 2 pins below the fracture, and if it's more complicated, we can actually put the pins completely through with the center threaded, like this one here was modified to become the external bar for this chicken repair. Anyway, and once you've actually stabilized the bottom and the top half, you kind of bolt it together. These little clamps are made to be taken off even while it's on the chicken, if you needed to. So you unscrew these 2 bolts and nuts, and that loosens it all up to where it'll all move. And then once you tighten it down, then basically we have this long bone here that takes the weight of the whole bone that's broken. So in other words, we're actually replacing this broken leg with more or less a bionic leg. All right, now here's the cool part. If I were to plate that bone and put say the bone's broken right here, that will be my bone, and say this were a plate. If I were to put that plate across that bone and then basically tie it into place, if there was an infection, that infection would go across that whole plate. It would cover the whole surface of that bone, and it's very, very hard to take care of bone infections. Osteomyelitis is every doctor's curse. So the reason I like this is, if this were a problem, and say for example this pin had gotten infected, I could loosen this clamp right here. We'll start putting the pin with the pin. Loosen this clamp right here, unscrew that one, and seeing as how, we'll go back to the pin being the bone again, stay. I can take this pin out, get a brand new pin, and move it over to either side, okay, of where that infection was. So in other words, I can treat a very, very small area of infection inside this bone, all right, and not have to remove this whole extra plate, or not have to worry about the amputation being one of my next options, or that type of thing. So I really, really enjoy and back up these externals. I do a lot of those in all different species. I have really large clamps. I've got carbon fiber bars that you can x-ray through and get pictures of the bones on. I mean, it's some really cool stuff. But anyway, this chicken has been in this for a while. This chicken probably should have been about a 2.5 to 3 week procedure. and then it would be done. But it turns out that they couldn't stop her from laying eggs, and it wasn't until we realized that that was the issue, that she was healing so poorly and so slowly, that we had upped her calcium. I mean, mega upped her calcium, and now her bone is fine. Matter of fact, she is standing on it right there. So she is completely healed, has a good callus. She's doing well. The external has served its purpose. Oh, and one of the points I missed is when you're using a splint or something, the joint below it and the joint above it needs to be stabilized to keep this bone still where this fracture is. So if you're going to use a splint, you're actually going to cause some arthritis to this joint and to this joint, both above and below. And the other joints you may have to stabilize in the process. For this, in this case, since this is on the tibia, we would have the hock to worry about, and the toes, and all that could be relatively arthritic or stiff and painful. If you've ever been in a splint before, you know this from personal experience, that getting out of it and the physical therapy it takes to get that those other joints working can be a real pain in the butt. And the good news is this really only leaves 1, 2, 3, 4 scars, okay, because this was a closed reduction. So there's two, there's actually the 4 holes, and those holes are the only scars this bird will have long term outside of what the bone looks like. Okay, that's it. I have a sick rat in the room. Later.